Meet the Neighborhood today. We've got our guest, Adam Bureau, who is a town of Cobourg councillor, local business owner. And we're going to get into, and a Leaf fan too, am I right?
You are correct.
So help me settle a bet here, because as Leaf fans, everyone's being encouraged to jump on the Montreal Canadiens bandwagon because they're heading to the Cup final and they're Canada's team. There's a Canadian team in the final. As a Leaf fan, I say, no, you don't root for the Habs because they're the Habs. You just don't. The Habs wouldn't be rooting for the Leafs if they were in the finals. It's like the Red Sox and the Yankees. Whereabouts on this argument do you fall?
I have to agree with you 100%. Yes. I can't. It is extremely hard, other than Carey Price, it is extremely hard to cheer for the Montreal. It's just in our blood. You can't do it.
Yeah, I think you're right. It comes with your Leaf fandom card.
Yes.
That you get, where if you cheer for the Habs, you lose that card for life. So not to say we don't wish the Habs good luck in the final. I'm just not rooting for them. So
Go Islanders.
We start off with a fun game we like to play called Two Truths and a Lie. 3 statements. One of them is a lie. We have to guess which one is the lie. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
I'll go first if you want.
Okay. Here's my 2 truths and a lie. You spot the lie.
Okay.
Number 1, as a 10-year-old, I once scored a goal from behind half in a soccer game. Number 2, I got told in no uncertain terms to fuck off by my idol, Raymond Bourque from the Boston Bruins. And number 3, I once kicked a field goal at halftime of an Ottawa Rough Riders CFL football game. Which one's the lie?
I'm going to say the soccer goal.
Nope, dead true.
Really?
I was playing in a tournament for Woody's Smoke Shop.
Oh.
back in the day when smoke shops could sponsor kids events. The Ray Bourque thing was in my media career when they lost, I believe it was 7-0 to the Ottawa Senators. I was doing media in Ottawa and we had to go down and talk to people after the game. And I was chasing down Ray with another media friend of mine because he didn't want to talk to anybody. We tried to talk to him and he dropped an F-bomb in our face and kept on walking. And the third one, I did not kick a field goal at halftime of an Ottawa Rough Riders game. Although I was there at the Grey Cup when the Argos won a couple years ago. It was fantastic. So so that was the lie, kicking the field goal. What's your 3 statements?
Okay. So 1, I was homeless at the age of 15.
Okay.
2, in my 20s, I used to race go-karts, gas-powered go-karts.
Nice.
And 3, I got pushed by Andre the Giant at one of the wrestling events.
Oh, I so want number 3 to be true. Because that's literally like, after that, you've lived a life. Like, I'm going to say, I got horked on by the one-man gang one time.
Oh, really? At
a wrestling event in Peterborough, yeah.
Wow.
Inadvertently. I'm going to say the Andre the Giant.
No, that is true. I was a kid in growing up in Oshawa. They used to have the wrestling once a year come to the arena, and Andre the Giant was coming out, and we were all hitting. When you're a kid, and they're all coming out, and I hit him on the back, like just not even hard, and he turned around and pushed me, and I'm like, whoa.
How old were you?
Like 8 or 9.
I love it. His hand would have been the size of your whole upper body.
Yeah, he was huge.
There is tales of his beer drinking that former wrestlers tell, where it wasn't uncommon for him to sit down and drink 60 beers in a sitting.
Yeah.
Just
well, he was so big.
Oh my God, yeah. Well, the one you mentioned, so which one was untrue then?
Racing the go-karts.
Oh, was it? I kind of wanted that one to be true too.
I know.
There is, and I believe they're building a go-kart track out in Alderville, aren't they?
I don't know. That'd be great.
I think one of the Crow brothers is building one out there. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about you and sort of your starts and your beginnings and how you got to where you are today and your story. Because you do have a really fascinating backstory. And you mentioned in 2 Truths and a Lie, you were homeless at 15. Take us back to that time in your life and what was happening. How did you end up that way? And how did you get out?
Well, as a regular kid, teenager, it wasn't the greatest behaved kid. And my mom had a rule. It was either, go to school or you're working and paying rent. That was back in the day. That was how it was done. And I lost my job and I wasn't in school. And that was it. Plus my behaviors weren't the greatest. And so it actually, one of the best things that ever happened was that, because it taught me how to survive, how to survive on my own, how to navigate the world way more than what school was. So for me anyways.
So as a 15-year-old, what's your first night like out of the house going, okay, I don't get to go home tonight?
Right. So the prior to that, well, actually, we can move on to this. I stayed out in a park a couple times on a bench, and then some of my friends let me stay there, and I talked to their parents, and they let me stay. Then I started navigating the welfare system back then, and in order to collect welfare, because I was underage, you had to go to school in order to collect it. It was called student welfare back then.
Yep.
And then they set me up with a room in a house, and then went to school. That didn't last long because school just wasn't for me back then. So ended up started working full time as a cook, and that was pretty much the story.
So at what age do you start working full time as a cook? And because at this point you've dropped out of school?
Oh yeah. Grade 9. So
okay.
I think I went to school for about 3 months, and that wasn't consecutive either. It was
a week here and there.
Yeah. And just so that I wouldn't get kicked out, because I still needed the welfare. And so started then. I worked in many different restaurants growing up, but it was like Kelsey's and stuff like that as dishwasher, and then moved up to as a cook. But I always worked. My first job was, I think I was in grade 6, and I was filling chlorine cans for customers for a friend of my parents owned a pool store, like pool supplies and that. And that was my first job, was filling the cans of chlorines for swimming pools.
Wow. At grade 6.
Yeah.
So then what was so challenging about school for you, and why wasn't, because school isn't for everyone, and
right.
Sometimes it's structure, sometimes it's the social structure that goes with school, sometimes it's authority, sometimes it's any number of things. What was it about school that you really struggled with? So
for me, I can't have people dictating what I do with their proper reasons. And back then, school, like, it wasn't like you just did what you were told back then.
Yeah,
so
totally.
Yeah. And if I didn't find it was justified on what they were telling me, I just had no part of it. So it was like, well, okay, if I can't do this and you're not giving me a reason, I'm just out. And I think that carried with me all through my life, to be honest with you. Which
is this why you're in business for yourself now?
Right. And kind of been fired from every job that I did have.
Right.
Just for those reasons. It was like, well, why are we doing it this way? And it was because I told you, well, then I'm out. So, right. Yeah. And I think a lot of people may have problems with that. Plus, it was the strict times and like school times and stuff like that, working full-time nights and going to school. It was extremely tough. And I commend everybody who can do that. To me, I needed money and to work, and that was that. So then after this sort of early period of your life, did you and mom ever reconcile this whole thing or get back? Oh yeah. In my 20s, we did. Right. Yeah. And it was just, like I said, it was one of the best things that happened, because it kind of put me on the straight and narrow to go to work and learn how to survive. So I find it funny though, that you had a clear issue with forms of authority, but in your own, as a business owner in your own business, like, you have to hold yourself accountable like that, or the business doesn't work. Right, because I can justify what I'm doing. So right, you got your own reasons. Right. So that's awesome. And that's one of the And when I first started my first store, which I was 19 in downtown Whitby, and it was called CD Traders. It was a used CD store, and I could either have done that or worked for the post office as a delivery person. And I chose to go into business because I figured probably wouldn't last long doing that either. so I thought, no.
That's a certain level of self-awareness, by the way.
Yeah, definitely. Well, when you've been fired so many times, it was like, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're bouncing around restaurants, going through high school. Did you ever complete any level of education from high school or anything? Because the education on the streets and the education in business is often as valuable or more than any education you're going to get. How did that end up?
So I graduated high school in 2020 in January. I went to the Adult Learning Center and did that. And
good for you.
It was weird going in the mornings at 8:30 and, dressed in a suit because I had council that day, and
right.
Everybody else in the class is like 16, 15, and I'm like, hey guys.
Well, that takes a certain amount of courage. And what was it that spurred you to go back and get your high school level?
Well, I always wanted to get it, and I always preached to my kids that education was important, and they always mimicked me saying, well, you don't even have a high school and stuff like that. So I just wanted to prove myself that I could get it. And plus, you never know what I want to be when I grow up someday.
It's true, right?
so yeah. So I thought it was important to get, and I just wanted to show everybody who actually, funny story, was my first year on council. The mayor was supposed to come and do a speech, John Henderson, at the Adult Learning Center for their graduation, and he couldn't make it, and he asked me to go, and I was like, sure. And I knew all the graduates, that almost all of them, they were customers in the store. And the one guy, Al Bovin, I believe he was 68 years old, and he got his high school. And I'm like, if he can do it, then I can do that. And
that's awesome.
It was, yeah. And so I talked to school trustee, Terry Brown. He was there that night. And I said, I think I'm going to do this. And we talked, and he said, yeah, you can do it on your own time. It's learning. You have to have some hours in the school. And I thought, well, I think I can do that. If Al can do it, I can do it.
So I wonder what made him go back at 68 years old.
Yeah, I asked him, he said he always wanted it. So, and he again said, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And I'm like, perfect. So
it's funny you say that, because my dad went back, he went back to university and took his master's degree, I think at 50. Because he was a teacher growing up, and he was in post-secondary, and he had all that, and he went back at 50 to get a master's degree. And I asked him why, and he's like, I always wanted a master's degree. Like, yeah, just because he wanted to do it. I know a physician here in town went and got his master's in English Lit at 54 or something like that, because he can, right? So and it was interesting to him. So
yeah, I believe never stop learning, ever. Yeah, there's always new challenges, and plus, if I can inspire somebody to go back to school that has dropped out, I mean, excellent. So
you talk about inspiring people, and obviously that, I think you've been very open about your backstory and very public about it. And as you said, you're kind of an open book, and I think your story does inspire some people. And for people that aren't familiar with Adam Bureau and his backstory, this story of sort of being on your own as a youngster, bouncing around and working and surviving and getting by and figuring life out. At one point you fell into addiction, and when did that start? And I think the most incredible thing to me is how you've not only gotten out of it, but how you've thrived coming out of it. And I think that's something that's interesting. People may want to hear, like, when did all of that start for you?
So it was December 13th or December 15th, 2002. I was driving, going to go and pick up one of the foster kids, and a pickup truck lost control and slammed into my car. Horrible accident. And I woke up 3 days later in the hospital, and surgery after surgery. And obviously after that was pain medication. So that's how pretty much the addiction started. And so going through all of that, my highest point, I was on fentanyl patches, everything. Like it was extremely a lot. It was my highest point was when I quit was 380s of Oxycontin a day, 10 Percocets a day, 2 muscle relaxers, and depression, a depression drug. So pretty much my life was just sleeping, and that was pretty much it. My whole goal for the day was waking up so that I could take the kids to the bus stop, go home, go back to bed, wake up when the kids got home, we'd have a bite to eat, and then I'd be back to bed. And that was my life for about, I'd say 4 years, 4 or 5 years. Yeah. It was just.
When did you decide I gotta kick this? I gotta stop doing this because this is not the way I want to live my life.
Right. So I lay in bed one day and I was like, this has got to end because I'm not doing it. I'm just sleeping. Like my whole life I was a worker. Before the accident, we lived in Minden. We had 100 acres. We had every farm animal going. And so I'd do that, work full time, and come home. All the kids, the foster kids and us, we'd all go out, feed the animals, and like it was really a lot of work. So it was 7 days a week. So to go to a complete stop. And then one of the issues is you have no purpose anymore. So it's like, well, what is my life? Is this my life now, going from that to just walking the kids to the bus stop every day? Like what happens? Like I can't live my life like that. And it was a pretty dark time. I was driving home and down Wicklow Beach Road, and I was like, I think either I end it or I stop it. And that was one of the trigger days. And that day I just quit cold turkey and
Seriously
stopped everything. And it was the worst hell of my life. Body pain every day, the sweats, the shakes, the throwing up, like you name it. I just quit everything cold turkey. I had to. And about 4 months later, I was like, I think I'm back. I think the old Adam is getting back. I did suffer a brain injury. And so through that, and sometimes I do have loss for words. So when I stutter or try stuff like that, that does happen from time to time. But a year after that is when I opened the store in downtown Cobourg. And I thought, got to do something during the day. And this is what I've always done. So let's give it a go and see if it works. And basically when I opened it, I just wanted some beer money and pay the bills. And I thought that'd be great. I did not at all think it would turn out like this.
Well, take me back to when you decided to go cold turkey, because we joked off mic that like if I had to give up coffee tomorrow, the doctor said, hey, you got to give up coffee or your heart's going to explode.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that would look like for me.
Yeah.
And that on a scale of 1 to addiction, like caffeine's pretty darn addictive, but it's not nearly in the realm of what opioids and opiates are. And I'm wondering what that withdrawal process was and how you managed to not jump back on the bandwagon especially during the detox time.
Right. Well, basically, I don't recommend it, and it's not healthy to do.
No,
it's something that you have to, like mine was all prescribed by my doctor. And so there was no like street drugs or anything like that. And a lot of people do fall into addictions that way. So what I did was pretty dangerous, could have killed me because my body going through all that, but it was the will for my kids. Like it was like, I want to be a dad again. I want to, live my life again. And I just kept thinking that whole time, that never stopped. And that was the only way that got me through it, because it was either ending it, like just they'd be better off if I wasn't there, in my mind.
Yeah.
And if I didn't change, and I had to do that.
You mentioned purpose, and I think everybody, when you find your purpose, it changes your whole outlook on life. But I think for guys in particular, guys need a purpose. Guys need, what are we doing? What are we contributing? Why are we here? That seems to be a theme with I can't, I think it is with women, but I think with men more so. And how would you describe sort of what your purpose is today, and where did you find that, and how does it kind of keep you going?
Well, backtrack on that for 1 second. The way we were brought up, I think we're around the same age. I'm 47.
Yep.
Was the men go out and work, provide. If you didn't do that, you weren't a man.
That's right.
And so I think that was instilled in us growing up. Not that that was right, but it was
The way it was.
That's how we grew up. So our purpose, we always had to go do something, or you were considered not a good guy.
Correct.
So, which is good in some ways because it does give you drive, but in other ways, it's not the end all be all of everything. So, my purpose now is, like, I've gone through a divorce, living on my own. My kids are all grown up, and my purpose now is basically to help better the town. I continue to run a successful business and do as much as I can for the public. I know that sounds politically a political answer, but it's true. Like, that's every day I talk to everybody downtown, citizens, and to me, that is the most rewarding thing.
I think, I was brought up in a way that kind of wherever you go, leave it a better place than what you found it.
Right.
And I find that watching from the outside looking in, from what you're doing at Cobourg Buy and Sell, from what you're doing on town council, your intention seems to be, whether it's helping better the downtown, whether it's helping better policy and whatnot in your political role, that seems to be a big theme for you, is sort of raising the bar and making things better. Is that fair?
Yep, definitely. And one of the good things about being on council is that you get to hear from everyone, and you get to hear all the little stories. You get to hear what everybody's doing. And I find that so rewarding when they're like, oh, we got this community grant and now we can put on our plays, or we can, the lawn bowling. There's just so many different aspects of Cobourg that you get to learn about. And it's amazing. I didn't know there was this much stuff going on.
That's what I loved about radio, is that when I worked in radio, it connected me to parts of the community I didn't even know existed.
Yeah, sorry, cat.
Is that your cat?
Yeah.
What's your cat's name?
Dewey.
Where he is. Hi, Dewey.
She's just everywhere. She's like a dog.
She's adorable.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it introduced me to people in the community I would never have otherwise crossed paths with.
Right.
And you get to realize how many layers there are to town, and how many different interest groups, and how many different passions and stories. And when we used to do the Relay for Life, I remember sitting at the Relay for Life one day and sort of sitting on the hill and just watching everybody walk the track, going, like, every single person there has got a story.
Yeah.
Like, everybody's got a story. What does that story look like? And I mean, part of me doing this interview series is to have these conversations, because I find other people's stories fascinating. When you decided to start up Cobourg Buy and Sell, like, what was your vision for the business, and what did it, what was sort of the impetus for that, and how you got to go?
I didn't really have a vision, to be honest with you. It was just it was something that I knew well how to do, and like I said, it was just at the end of the week, I thought I'd get a case of beer out of it and pay the bills, and it gave me something to do during the day.
Right.
And and so then I think in the first few months it just took off. Like, I had zero stock. I think I had like maybe 20 or 30 CDs from home, and
Right.
and some movies and some miscellaneous furniture just to fill the store. And all of a sudden it just boomed. And I was like, oh my gosh. Every day I was exhausted coming home, and I was like, this is unbelievably great. And the community just welcomed us in, and so it kind of grew from there, over and over and over.
And one of the cool things about your story, I think, that other than the sheer volume of stuff that you get to deal with, and crazy goods that come and go through that store, it may be one of the best gathering places in town for characters and people. Like, there's always conversations going on either in the store or in front of the store, and it becomes a place, like, you must meet some fascinating people.
Oh, everybody. So that is true. you never, one of the things that I love about the store and waking up every day, and you know, everybody goes to work and they're like, oh, this is going to happen today, this is going to, you have no clue what's going to happen at all. You have no idea what's going to come in. You have no idea what's going to happen. You have no idea what people are going to come in, what conversations you're going to have. And every day is a new day. And there's always something going on. Always.
So give me an example of some of the stuff people have brought in that you've said, no, I just can't do it. Okay, you can't, you've refused.
A lot of people out phone about mattresses and stuff like that if I take used mattresses, which I do not. What else? There's adult diapers. People brought in adult diapers once, and I'm like, no, we don't really buy and sell those. And my favorite question, I love, and Paul and I laugh about this all the time, is, do you buy stuff? No, we don't. We just, magically appears and we sell it.
People throw stuff on the curb and we just steal it and resell it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's literally in the name of the business, Cobourg Buy and Sell.
Yeah.
So like, is the business, the feel of the business, is it like sort of a day-to-day swap meet?
Pretty much. Yeah. Like I said, you never know what's going to come in. So you don't know if people are coming in because they need money for numerous reasons. A lot of people think at the beginning that it was a lot for just criminal activity, place to go to sell stolen stuff, and which we do work closely with the police all the time.
Well, you've got a list, right?
Oh yeah. And we send all the police sheets or purchase sheets to the police station, and we work really well and close with them. So that I think what kind of helped that was the TV show Pawn Stars.
Yeah.
When that came out, it kind of made it more mainstream, and actually what a pawn shop kind of is, although that's pretty fake. But so we get people that come in who need money for before the pandemic for like school trips, graduations. A lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck and their car breaks down and they need money, or like tons of reasons. So
it must be a really what's the word I'm looking for? Like, it must be a really good educator or education incubator for your role on council, because you see people like you just mentioned, like people come in for any number of reasons. Yeah. Sometimes it's because they need emergency cash and they need something, like, and the number of people that are living paycheck to paycheck and the economic shift that we've seen in the last kind of 10 years and what that looks like, you kind of get a front row seat to that every single day. And does that help or add to your role on council when it comes to decision making or policy making, or does it give you like an ear to the community kind of thing? Like,
oh yes. Because we deal with all walks of life, so right from the homeless to the super rich people, like doctors, lawyers, everybody, it's all walks of life. So you kind of get where they're all coming from. A lot of the times that being an advocate for homelessness and addictions, you get to see it every day firsthand on what people are suffering and what they're going through. And then, so it does help inform when we're talking about different policies and different procedures and different bylaws and stuff like that in town or in council. So it really does give you a wide perspective. And I don't think a lot of people who aren't downtown every day actually see what's actually going on. So I think
people don't want to.
Yeah, exactly.
Some people don't want to see that part of our community.
Yeah.
Right.
Like a lot of people look at people that are walking up and down the street and you can tell that they're addicted or they're high. And they're like, oh my gosh, those people are so bad. Well, those people didn't, wake up and go, geez, I really want to be addicted to drugs and just, wreck my whole entire life. It blows my mind when people think that. And I'd like to correct everybody who does say stuff like that, because it's not right.
You've been in that situation before. You mentioned homeless, and you were homeless as a young person. And when you see what's happening in, I don't want to say broader society today, because for anybody that is in that situation, that is homeless or that is struggling with addiction, one of the challenges I think to helping the situation is they kind of have to want the help. Is that fair?
Yeah,
So
for sure.
I'm wondering if you see any, or if you've got any ideas for helping people in that situation, like, because from the outside looking in, everybody likes to be an armchair quarterback and go, we should just be doing this and this and this. But
Yeah,
there has to, because a lot of those people, keep in mind, are distrustful for a number of very valid reasons. They don't trust people.
right.
So you have to
Right.
build relationships to get them to move to a place of trust where maybe they can make a step forward and maybe try and get out of the situation there if they want. And there's some people that frankly don't want the help. So, is there any ideas that come up from your past experience or from what you talk to people on the street? Like what ideas are being talked about or discussed to maybe help folks in that situation? Is there anything that comes to mind?
Well, first, generally when you're addicted to drugs, there's about a 15-minute window that they want help. And after that 15-minute window goes by, they're back doing the same thing. They need to get high because their body starts feeling sick and they have to do it.
Yep.
It just takes away every other aspect of their life except I got to get those drugs. That's all they're thinking. What I do like is a shout out to Cobourg Police with their MHAR team. Outstanding. They have an officer and an addiction nurse, and what they do is anytime that there's a crisis, those two go out and talk to that individual. And what is amazing about this is it's not just that one-time talk. They will actually follow up day after day after day to see how they're doing. But that's only limited as well, because a lot of people that are having these issues is happening at 2, 3 in the morning when all of our services are closed, other than the emergency room. And I think we need, in my opinion, we need a rehab facility that is court ordered, go through a 30-day detox and have it as a step program. So then each step after your detox, then you go to counseling, you're learning, all that kind of stuff. And then go back out into the workforce, and then you're back out on your own. I think that we need something like that.
Well, and I think the first part of that process, I think, is the critical part, because when you say court ordered rehab, I think that for folks that are struggling with addiction, they're not in clear mind.
No.
You can't make a clear decision or make the choice to move somewhere when you're impaired. And I think clearing their mind, getting them healthy, getting them sort of to a position where physically and mentally they're sort of fresh and clean, where they can then maybe look through clear eyes and say, okay, what's my next decision going to make? That to me is sort of the first critical step. Having the facilities is the whole second argument for this, because we just saw Northumberland Community Counseling Center close down because of lack of funding, a huge loss in our community.
Yeah,
and
especially now. Yeah.
Well, right. Yeah. At the end of the pandemic, right? Like, where we've seen all of the pandemic has amplified all of these problems. I think that everybody in kind of every level of society is feeling, depending on what it is. And I think putting together or figuring out a rehab facility as a next step thing, the challenge, I think, is that it just seems to be happening to more and more and more and more people. Like, the problem seems to be growing, not shrinking.
Well, we lost more people to opioid overdoses than the pandemic. So, like, in the same amount of time. To me, I think this is a huge issue. One of the challenges being on council is it's not in our municipal act. So, because it's all the government levels above us, and this is going to sound bad, they preach that they want to do stuff and that they want to help, but it's them that have to do it.
Yeah.
Like, we're saying we need help. This is what we got to do. This is the steps that we need to take. And they're like, we hear you, but then let's close the counseling center. Like, that's one of the problems. And to me, I know I got to be respectful and all that in my position, but okay, let's get it going. So we have to do it. It's just going to end up hurting and killing more people. And until actual permanent things get put in place, this is going to keep happening and growing. Look at the construction industry now. They're huge problem with opioids, with people working every day. You know, their back gets hurt, but they got to keep working, and huge addictions.
Yeah. And I think, Adam, you telling your story and hearing the success that you've come through, I think that that's something that maybe helps move the needle for people. And I know you've told the story a lot. I know you've kind of used your position on council to reflect what you've experienced and what you've heard, and moving forward. And, you know, hopefully that's the kind of stuff that does move the needle. You went back to your purpose conversation. You know, hopefully that's the stuff that does move the needle and does force or encourage the people above town council to start making some bigger moves, to make some bigger changes. Because the next big discussion is what's going to happen to Brookside, which is owned by the province. And
Yeah.
I remember you put, was it you? I think you put it on your Facebook page. Didn't you ask people, what should we do with the property?
Well, that was through, David Piccini did that.
Right.
And then, so I just shared the link. So have your say. So a lot of different organizations have that I know in my portfolio on council, like the arts and culture part, have sent their ideas all to David, and we'll see what the province does with it. But again, that's out of our hands, the municipality's hands.
When did you make the decision to run for council?
When I became the chair of the DBIA, I absolutely loved it. I never really bought into government politics or anything. I just did my own thing. And I worked closely with Gil Brockenier, the former mayor, and I absolutely loved it. I loved the way the meetings go. I loved making the changes. And I thought the election was coming up, and I thought, you know what? This is on a grand scheme of things, not just the downtown. I could do this for everybody.
Right.
So that was one of the things. And I think it was about 6-7 months before the election is when I decided.
Have you got any further aspirations?
Oh, of course. I always keep moving up. I always keep going. Definitely.
Outside of council and business, do you have time for anything else? What else what do you love to do when you're not at work or working for the town?
I'd love to watch hockey, of course.
Yes.
Pretty much go for walks, go down to the marina, hang out with my girlfriend, and yeah, that's pretty much all I got time for. Because other than that, I'm reading. Like our last council agenda had 59 reports on it. Yeah, I got it. You're going, okay. And then I think the last council meeting was 5 hours. So you work all day and then do a 5-hour meeting
on Zoom.
On Zoom, yeah.
Which is even more fun.
Oh yes.
Well, and as a long-suffering Leaf fan, once again, this was not our year.
It was not.
We are pulling for Carey Price, but I refuse to root for the Habs.
I agree.
If people have questions, comments, or anything that's come up from either our chat today or stuff with council, what's the best way they can get in touch with you?
Bureau@Cobourg.ca, and or on Facebook, or come down and see me at the store, or I'm pretty much there every day.
I recommend people go down to the store because it's like a gathering place at Cobourg Buy and Sell where people can just sit and chat and talk about stuff in real time. So listen, man, thank you for doing this. It's been really interesting to chat and learn about your story and learn about where you've been, where you've gone, and where you're going to. And fingers crossed for those higher aspirations for you.
Thank you very much.
Continued success at the business too, because the pandemic has been hard on small business, and it sounds like you're going to come out of it okay. Is that fair?
Yep.
Good, man. And I hope people get a chance to reach out and check out the store too. Your honesty, your sort of brutal honesty at times it's pretty inspiring, man. And I hope people got something out of this chat, and I wish you the best moving forward.
Thank you very much. And thank you for having me. And I think this is great what you're doing, by the way.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.